Okay, here we are getting ready to degree the cam in. Got the plate here that holds the cam in place. That timing chain, the gear for the timing chain will pull this cam out against that plate, keep the cam from walking back and forth. The kit that I got from Ford Strokers has a recessed set of Allen head screws. So you take a 1/2-inch drill bit and you grind it to a sharper angle to where these screws will fit down in there, and you drill it to recess these, and you get it just below flush so that the Torrington bearing on this cam gear will ride up here and not hit those screws. Then you put your gear on here and you put up your dial indicator and you see what your play is, your play back and forth. And so I set the dial indicator up. I had it set up over here on this side against the gear there. And I have 2,000, actually I was tight. I did not have any clearance. I was actually in a press fit situation. So then I took the plate back off, put it on a flat piece of a hard surface, and I started with a 60 grit sandpaper, and I took my calipers and I measured my progress, and I took 3/1000 off, and then took it to 120 grit paper, and then 180, got a pretty decent finish on there, and put my dial indicator back on. I'm right at 2/1000 clearance with that front bolt torqued on. So we put that back on, and I use some blue Loctite on here to hold that in place. On the Ford, there's a little bit of oiling that comes over here, just right off a little groove inside there, so you want to make sure you get that right. So now we are to the part where we find top dead center so we can degree the camshaft. Here is my homemade plate, drilled a piece of aluminum, got my head bolts with some washers just to hold it down. That's just a bolt so that it sticks below to where that piston will come up and just touch it. Now we didn't put any rings on the piston, we just put the piston, one piston in, just so we can find top dead center. So now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this over, and we're going to take our two readings on where the top dead center is. So we're going to roll her on back just a wee bit. I have to bend my wire here. We don't want it popping off when we're running this. Okay, there we go. We have got that side hitting. So I'm going to bend my wire over here to where it says 49 degrees or thereabouts. I'm going to try and get it close. All right. So now I'm going to write down, I have 49 degrees before top dead center on one side. All right, now I'm going to roll her over, and we're going to see what she has on the other way. All right, so I've got 5 before top center. So 49 plus 5 makes 54. So I want to roll her to where she's 25 is going to be top dead center. So top dead center is going to be right over here. So 49 plus, let's see. Yeah, I want to split the difference between 49 and 5. So I've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So 35, and then divide that by 2, put her right there in the middle. And so let me get that done here right quick. Okay, one mistake I made, there was some junk over here. It made it look like 49. I'm thinking, boy, that's weird. It's been a while since I've done a degree wheel. And so I rubbed it off, and it was 40, not 49. So my mistake. But when I counted backwards on 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 16 is 32, 18 is 36. So it's going to be just under 18. So 5, 10, 15, 20 would be at 25. Go back to 18 is going to be 23. So about 22 and a half is going to be top dead center. So we'll get this rascal right here at 22 and a half. And then we're going to change this wheel to where it's actually exactly right there. Now you can also take a dial indicator and find top dead center the same way. Well, let's prove that. Okay, turn that dial indicator to 0. And over here, this little rascal right there, that's the fine adjustment. Okay, so let's see what we got. Let me pull that camera over here. There's 0. There it is, right at 22, 22 and a half. And you can see there's no dwell at all, because there's 21. So we'll go back up to 22 and a half. And the nice thing is, if I get this off just a wee bit, when I loosen this thing up, then we'll be able to put her right back on where she belongs. So I loosen this lock ring, and then I can turn this wheel over there to where I want it on 0. And now that we got our 0 established, we can get the degree part of the cam done. Yep, there I go. I'm messing it up, but I'm not worried because I have got my, didn't move it much. I'm just about exactly on 0. Now let's double check it, make sure that she is exactly where we think she's going to be. All right. That's just about exactly there. You can bend your pointer just to where you want it. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to move this dial indicator, and we're going to find where the maximum lift is on this cam and kind of degree it in with the crank on a rough start. And then we're going to find, Comp Cams recommends doing a 50 thousandths before max lift on the degree wheel, 50 thousandths after max lift on the degree wheel, divide by 2. That's the center line of the intake cam. And you, on this particular cam, they recommend 106 degrees. So we've got this on top dead center. So I'm going to get a lifter, and we're going to put it on that camshaft and measure our cam lift. All right, here we go. We were just getting started on degreeing the camshaft. There's a couple things I should back up and tell you before we finish this section. One is making sure all the numbers are legible on the degree wheel. Remember, I misread that one number. when we were doing the finding top dead center. Remember, finding top dead center, we started with the piston stop, and we ran it up one way, recorded that number, ran it around the other way, recorded that number, took the difference between the two spots on the wheel, divided by 2, and that was top dead center. Now, if you have the dial indicator, it's easier to put the dial indicator on the piston and then run it up to top dead center. And you can tell that as the dial goes back and forth, you want it under maximum lift on that piston, and then you can set your top dead center. Now, we've got top dead center set. Then we want to get as accurate as we can on the intake lifter. Okay? We're setting it up. We time our events off of number 1 intake. The Chevy boys laugh that Fords are backwards, and Fords think that Chevys are backwards. Then they are. They're backwards to each other. Both good motors. So anyway, on the most solid part of the lifter, up there at the top, as straight as to the axis of the lifter as you can get to get the most accurate numbers. Now, Comp Cams likes to do intake center line, and we talked about that. So to find intake center line, what we do is we rotate the crankshaft. Let's get this going the right way. Let's get it going clockwise from the front. And we're going to rotate this to find max lift. Now here it comes up on the lifter. And I've already got it pre-zeroed, so we ought to be pretty close to that 0 number. Right, there we are. Let's back it up a wee bit. Let's make sure that yes, indeed, we are 0. Okay? Now you always want to get your head set on the same angle, the same parallel as your gauge, so that when you move your head, you can see the numbers change. Well, we want to keep exactly the same focus so we get an accurate reading. Now we have it at 0, max lift. Now we want to go 50 thousandths less than max lift, and we want to do 50 thousandths on both sides of that cam flank, on the advanced side and on the downhill side. So here we go. I'm going on past. So that's going to be, let me get my glasses on, get the right number here. We're going to go 50 thousandths on the downhill side, on the event side, so that's after top dead center. Take a look here, and that's right at 150 degrees. Now, we reverse the rotation. Let's take it counterclockwise, and we'll go past peak and back down to another 50 thousandths. 50 thousandths on the opposite side of that cam flank. All right? That is 62 degrees. So when you add 150 to 62, you get 212. Divide 212 by 2, and you get, what's it say? Cam installed 106 degrees center line intake. So we've got exactly center line intake when we divide that out. Now the other way, most cams time off of 050 lift. Comp times off of 006 lift. So it's supposed to open 20 degrees before top dead center. It's supposed to open 006. So let's reset and let's see what we get. So what we want to do is we want to come around, we want to reverse this thing so that we get before top dead center. Okay, let's get that lifter down at the bottom and make sure that your lifter is moving smoothly. If it hangs up, you're not going to get the right numbers. So we got that lifter on the bottom. We're going to run it around to 0 here, because now we're timing off of lift rather than off of peak minus 50. Okay, so there's 0. Now we're going to rotate this clockwise till we get 6 thousandths of lift. So here we go. Let's look for 6, real careful here. Here it comes. Doesn't take much to come up on 6 thousandths. There it is, 6 thousandths. And we're running just about 20. We're running just a little over 20. So it's probably the parallax or not quite having it. Let me back it up a little bit and see if I got off on my reading my 0. Let me get my head where it belongs. Keep my 0 right where it belongs. Let's try it one more time. Human error is not what we want. We want it to be perfect. All right, there we go. We're still running about 22, but you're not, we're dead on with the centerline measurement, so I'm not going to change it. You can see why Comp Cams likes the centerline measurement, because it's not quite as accurate to do it off a 6 thousandths lift as it is the actual cam line. Now, a couple other things. This degree wheel has got a couple different grooves. You want to make sure you always get it in the same keyway every single time, because let's see, we got 22 here. If we accidentally get it on the wrong one, look at that. Clear up. Of course, we know that's wrong too, but you can see where you might be reading things wrong if you weren't paying attention. Let the set screw hold it tight. You could be anywhere over there way off. Now, the other thing that you need to know is you see these numbers and these keyways. Okay? Now, on the Fords, we like this dot to be up on top and the other number to be on the bottom, both straight up. So with 0, here's straight up. Advanced 2, well, there it is right there. Come over here. Here's retard. Retard 4, there's the tooth for retard 4. If you're going to retard at 4, you would have this tooth sticking straight up. But you'd have to move this over. The keyway has to be on the number you're using. We're running straight up, so it's on 0. But if we wanted to advance it 2, we'd have to pull this off, rotate it, and put it on this keyway, and time off of the A2 tooth. If we're going to retard it 2, we have to pull the gear off, put it on this keyway, and read off of the R2 tooth, and so on. R4 tooth, R8, it is clearly marked out. So now what we're going to do is work on putting some bolts, rod bolts. I'm going to make a fixture to press rod bolts into the rods. I'm going to measure and see if we really truly do go out of round when we press those other rod bolts in. See how, just put some science to this and see if we're careful with how we press them. Does it really make a difference? Of course, the adage on the internet is it's the end of the world if you don't remachine the big end. Well, you know, if it was a perfect world, we'd be boring it and honing it with a torque plate and putting in new pistons. So we're not dealing with a perfect world. Let's see what we start with and where we end up at. So we will get to that on this next video. Wanted to add another thing is, as always, I hope this is really making a difference for you. I hope you're learning good skills. It took me a lot of years, a lot of motors, a lot of money to learn from my mistakes. And another thing I forgot to tell you is, when you put the timing chain on, you have to make sure you torque this bolt down and have everything to tolerance and spec. I measured it, and if you just put it on what seems to be tight, chain seems to be tight, not pulled together with the bolt, there's more tolerance than you might think. There is 10 degrees crankshaft difference between putting it on with your hand and pushing it tight and slamming it with your fist, trying to get by, versus torquing it down. 10 degrees crankshaft difference. You will never get it timed right if you don't torque it down and make sure that everything is at spec before you start to measure. So also, If you're enjoying this, if this is meaning a lot to you, include your friends, include your family. I would love it if this kind of knowledge increases family life together with your kids, knowledge you can pass on, fun things that you can do together, whether it's dune buggies, motorcycles, drag racing, boat racing, car racing. There's a lot of things you can do, as well as, you know what? If you start to learn these things, you can drive older cars and not pay a mechanic and have a little bit more money in your bank account. That's what I do. I try to take care of my own stuff and keep the money for family things. And as always, love your kids. Spend every moment coaching them. You're a life coach. And think of it as a good basketball coach or a good baseball coach. You take your kids out of the game, you speak to them, you tell them where things are going wrong, where they can improve, put them back in the game, let them play the game. Coaches don't play the game, the players play the game. And pull them out and give them the timeouts, give them the instruction, put them back in the game. So anyway, like, share, include your friends, and get a group together and have a lot of fun. And let's keep the motorsports going and pass them on to the next generation. So we will see you next on the Piston video.